Is your attention a bit all over the place sometimes? I get it. And today I'm talking about a book that has made me think differently about my attention and my daily well-being. The book is Attention Span by Gloria Mark, and I'm really looking forward to sharing some of my favourite takeaways with you today. So let's get into it. Hello, and welcome back to the Better Workday podcast. How are you doing? Today I'm bringing you something a little bit different, a book review. If you know me at all, you know that I love books, especially those that help us create better workdays. So in this episode, I'm reviewing Attention Span by Gloria Mark. I was lucky enough to actually have a brief message exchange with Gloria on LinkedIn, and she shared her own favourite takeaway from the book, which I'll share with you a little bit later. Before we get stuck in, let me tell you why I picked up this book. I'll be honest, I'm a bit of a fan of Gloria Mark. Over the years, whenever I was reading books or articles about distractions and interruptions at work, her name and her research kept coming up. So naturally, when the book came out, I immediately downloaded it on Audible and listened to it during a round-trip drive to a workshop I was delivering, which was actually about managing distractions and interruptions at work. Now, I did enjoy listening to it, and it's a very pleasant listen, but full disclosure, there's a lot of detailed research in this book, which is brilliant, but it did make it kind of challenging to stay focused during longer listening sessions. So after finishing the audiobook, I went back, I bought the Kindle version to go back over the key ideas and to highlight the notes, which I love doing on a Kindle. And honestly, if you do decide to get this book, that's exactly how I'd recommend approaching it. Read it rather than listen. You'll get way more from it. At the core of the book, Gloria argues that our attention spans are being stressed and fragmented by the constant demands and distractions of modern technology and life. And the book unpacks a few different themes like how cognitive load affects our attention, the role that digital devices play, and then she shares some practical research-based strategies to help us regain control of our focus. Let's get into 3 of those practical ideas that stood out for me, without spoiling the whole book, of course. Number 1, be mindful of your cognitive load. Gloria introduces this idea that we each have a limited pool of cognitive resources, brain energy really, that's available each day. She explains it like whenever you're doing something, you write it on an internal whiteboard, and every time you switch your task or you switch your attention, you rub that out, you erase it, and you rewrite on the whiteboard again, and you do this all day long. Now, when I read this, it really resonated with me because for years, I feel like I have been writing, erasing, rewriting on my internal whiteboard all day long. And of course, when I saw that, it made perfect sense as to why that would make me feel tired and exhausted sometimes at the end of every day. So here's a practical tip. You can batch similar tasks together. When you group activities, it reduces the load from constantly switching and it helps to protect your energy. Now, it doesn't have to be, always staying on a spreadsheet or always staying on a particular application. As long as you're maybe staying to the same topic, I call that batching. And if you're in a role where batching your tasks isn't feasible, it's not practical, then I do recommend you taking more regular breaks so that you can give that whiteboard a rest for a few moments during the day. Tip number 2 is to cultivate meta-awareness. Now, when I reached out to Gloria, I can't believe it, by the way, I asked her to connect with me on LinkedIn and she did. And then I asked her if she could give me some input for this review. And she said, it would be my pleasure. Such a lovely person because she totally didn't have to reply to me at all. So I just want to say, hi, Gloria. So lovely to speak to you and thank you for doing this. She said there's a lot of different takeaways, but the one that she would highlight was that people can regain agency over their attention. We just need to develop new habits. And the more we practice the habits, like developing awareness around how we're using digital screens and different things, the stronger that they become. And meta-awareness sounds more complicated than it is. Here's how you can start implementing that easily. Just pause between a task and ask yourself, am I working on what I intended to work on right now? It's that simple, but so powerful. It helps you notice distractions as they're coming up so you can gently bring your attention back. Now, number 3 for me, now there's actually way more than 3, you probably know this, but number 3 for me was to use hooks to avoid attention traps. So this is a great tip from Gloria's book and just shows how she balances the research with practical ideas. It's this idea of creating hooks, little reminders or cues to pull you out of distractions. Now, what I like about this one is I use this hook approach to make me feel less guilty about taking breaks during my working day. I do like to jump on TikTok. I'm a big fan of animal videos, anything to do with like talking chickens, talking cats, talking dogs, all that stuff. I just think it's hilarious. I don't know why, I just find it really funny. And I like really cheesy humor. And I find it a really good way to de-stress and to unwind when I'm working on lots of heavy stuff. But I'd always feel guilty, about spending time on that stuff when I should be working, especially because my working hours would be quite limited during the week. So I took this hook idea and now I do my guilt-free scrolling just before meetings or just before I have to leave to collect the kids or just before I have another fixed appointment in my calendar. And it's really nice. Now, coming back to the style of the book itself, Gloria's writing style is lovely. It's clear, it's practical, it's research-based, which I personally loved. And I actually thought it was way more personable than I expected, considering the amount of research she brings into the book. And I think the way that she brought the personal stories for the book really worked here. That's what probably made it feel so relatable. And that was a lovely surprise. I know that book reviews usually have a criticism or a critical thought, and I really struggled because I actually loved the book. Like I do, and I know I'm biased because I'm a total fan of Gloria Mark, so that's there. But if there was one, like if I had to call one out and put on a critical hat, I would say that some of the concepts felt repeated a couple of times. But in fairness, I think that repetition is for reinforcement so that we understand the core ideas fully. So I don't think it's a bad thing. So who do I think would benefit most from this book? I think if you are desk-based, if you find yourself constantly distracted or if you feel overwhelmed by the demands on your role, this book will be really helpful for you. And I think there are definitely, as I've said already, really practical takeaways that you can take from it. And the final thing for me, honestly, is I left the book feeling less guilty about those days and those times I'm distracted. So I would often be hard on myself. I'm sure I'm not the only one. I'd say you probably are as well, sometimes thinking I should be more focused. I should be better at paying attention to the things that matter most. I should be less distracted. And Gloria did a really good job of just showing that it's bigger than me. And while I do have agency and I can practice some habits that will help me to take more control over my attention, it's not all down to me and it's not all on my shoulders. And I just thought that was a really good feeling to finish reading a book with, that I was armed with actions I could take and a sense of, you don't have to try and do it all on your own. So that was lovely. Now, if you've already read Attention Span, I'd love to hear your favorite takeaways. So drop me a message or a comment wherever you're listening or watching this. I'd really love to hear from you. As always, please share this with a friend or a colleague who you think would find it helpful. And until next time, stay well and have a better workday.